A tough economic climate and high unemployment rates have left many Americans yearning for the better days, when the market was prosperous and Washington had the leadership of Bill Clinton. Now, while the former president remains an influential and outspoken figure in today's political discourse, our next guest says that a revival of Clintonomics is not the hope for America. Joining me is Marbue Brown, author of the book, The Clinton Economic Boom and Other Myths of the Clinton Presidency. Now, Marbue is a recognized market expert and serves as a business strategist for Fortune 100 companies. Marbue, thanks so much for being here. And, it just seems like Americans want to party like it's 1999. And, the president's been out there. He's put a book out called Back to Work about how to jumpstart the economy. Why do you think so many people are asking, what would Bill Clinton do?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that during the years Clinton was in office, the economy worked very well. It was booming. People were prosperous, and so naturally, people looked to him as a source where that prosperity came from. But I have a different perspective because I spent some time doing a very careful analysis of what were the drivers of the economy during the Clinton years, and I found that it wasn't so much that had to do with his policies. It had to do with other things that were going on in the environment instead.
Now, I was going to ask you that because just how responsible was Clinton for that booming economy? Was he just at the right place at the right time?
Well, that's what my analysis shows. It shows that he was pretty much just at the right place at the right time. What I identified were that there were 5 major factors that drove the economy during the Clinton years, and really the president's policies were not, underlying those 5 factors. And I can tick those off for you real quickly, and then maybe we can go into depth on some of them. But there was the Y2K remediation work that was done. That basically forced companies and the government as well to spend around $200 billion to prepare for Y2K. And even in today's numbers, that's a pretty sizable economic stimulus. Then, of course, there was the internet revolution, and we all know that the internet revolution had a big impact on the economy. Most of us don't realize how big it actually was. And that's one of the things that I go into in the book. How many jobs were created by it? How much, spending was created by it? So there's that second one. The third one is the Telecom Act of 1996, kind of like telecom deregulation phase 2. And then we had what I would refer to as cheap money, and it's not just cheap, but it was cheap and easy. That was kind of the beginning of the historically low interest rates. And then finally, what we have is what I refer to as rookie investors. And when you put those 5 things together, they created a kind of a positive economic perfect storm, if you will, that kind of drove the economy during the Clinton years.
Now, you talk about this economic storm, and we kind of also see the root of much of our current economic problems kind of beginning during that time with the tech boom, with some of the housing crisis. I mean, how much does our current situation relate to the environment that Clinton presided over?
Well, it's interesting because the things that created the boom also kind of in reverse created a bust, right? Not necessarily all of them, but we think of the housing crisis as a bubble, and you've heard President Obama say we want to do things that create sustainable growth, not bubbles. Problem is that during the Clinton years we had 3 bubbles. Right. The first one was Y2K, and it's not a bubble in the most technical sense, but the fact is it drove a significant amount of economic activity for a very limited period of time. That was something that had a very defined end, right? It wasn't going to continue the spending on and on. But what it did do was that it accelerated certain spending that companies would have done later on a different timetable. And so when all that money was spent, when we got into the early years, from 2001 and on, all of that money was not in circulation anymore. It had been pre-spent. And so it contributed to tough economic times, which in turn kind of helped to fuel the housing bubble because, money got moved from one area basically into another. So there is definitely a relationship.
Now, Marbue, you know, we've seen the president, he's been very active on the trail. We see the reemergence of Newt Gingrich. I mean, you know, like history repeats itself, but do you think that the people in Washington have actually learned the lessons of the Clinton era?
Well, no. First of all, when you listen to the president talk about the Clinton era, what you would take away from that is that Clinton raised taxes and he balanced the budget. As a matter of fact, that theme is repeated so frequently. You hear Nancy Pelosi say very frequently that Bush inherited a surplus and he spent it all, or he destroyed it all by tax cuts. And what that shows is that folks have not done their homework to understand what really happened during that period of time. Let me give an illustration of what I mean. You know, this year we had a huge crisis over the debt ceiling and whether or not we were going to have a shutdown of the government and whether or not we were going to have whether we're going to have a downgrade of our credit rating. And as we went through this, for most people, it seemed like we were going through this for the first time. Well, you know, one of the posts on my blog, what I did was to show how if you took headlines from October through December of 1995, I could give you those headlines and you would think they were written this year. Because we went through that whole cycle once before, and the government actually did get shut down a couple of times. So, you know, when the reason that the government got shut down is what's lost on a lot of people, because the reason it was shut down was because the president actually refused to produce a budget plan that would balance the budget in 7 years. That was 1995. It actually took 2 years of, you know, bickering with Congress before they passed the Balanced Budget Act of 1997, yet the budget got balanced in 1998. Okay, theirs was a 7-year plan. It wasn't supposed to be on track to balance the budget until 2004. So why did the budget get balanced in 1998? And that's actually one of the biggest drivers that got me started working on the book. I'm trying to understand, how did the budget actually get balanced, right? And it wasn't because Clinton raised taxes and the budget got balanced. It had to do with totally different factors.
Well, it's interesting because it's been over 900 days since Congress has even passed a budget. So maybe you can see why people are kind of romanticizing for the Clinton era now. Marbue, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for doing your homework on this book.
I really appreciate the opportunity to join you all. And, you know, I hope that folks will take a look at the book and you know, see more depth of what we're talking about here, because we have only scratched the surface. So, you know, I hope people will get a chance to look at the Clinton economic boom and other myths of the Clinton presidency, and maybe even check out that blog, theeconomicboom.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Marbue. And be sure to pick up a copy of his book, The Clinton Economic Boom and Other Myths of the Clinton Presidency, over at Amazon.com. For PJTV, I'm Alexis Garcia.